And on what you just heard, the former president said there, calling it one of the saddest days in our nation's history, saying the U.S. is a nation in decline. Do you agree with that?
Well, I do think the nation is in decline right now. I do think Joe Biden's America is an America where the poor are getting poorer, where America is getting weaker, and where if we keep on the same trajectory, China may be the only lone superpower in the future. So that is an America that worries me.
But he's not talking about that. He's talking about because he's on his way to this courthouse to have his arraignment.
Sure. And you know, I think, you know, his supporters who are here feel aggrieved. They feel that there isn't a fair administration of justice. They feel sometimes that the press is not fair. That's their perspective. They have the right to their perspective, and my job as mayor is to make sure that they can exercise their constitutional rights in a way that doesn't put anybody in harm's way or jeopardize anyone.
You are the mayor, but you're also a prominent Republican in this nation. You were reelected with about 80% of the vote. When it comes to this indictment itself, and you look at it and why the former president is going to be here today, do you believe a lot of that was self-inflicted?
You know, I've heard people say that. You know, I can't speak for him and why he decides to do things or not do things. What I can say is there is a perception that the law isn't being applied equally to both sides of the political spectrum. That's a perception that exists. There's an erosion of our institutions, and I think that's something that worries me. As a Republican, it worries me as an American. I think we have to get back to a positive conversation. We have to get back to a unifying conversation. When you talk about 80%, I want to spend 80% of my time discussing the 80% of things that we agree on. Prosperity for ourselves and our children, that our tomorrows should be better than our yesterdays, that we should live in peace and security. Those are the things that I think as Americans we all agree on. Once the conversation gets back to that, I think our country is going to be a lot healthier.
Chris Christie made the point last night in a town hall with Anderson Cooper that a lot of Republicans, a lot of other members of your party are blaming the Justice Department and the prosecutors here for this, but not directing that at Trump, who, though, you know, if he had just cooperated, if he had just given back the documents, none of this would be happening.
Well, you know, I was telling you that we keep talking about it, and I think what happens is we're giving the former president so much volume that if things continue on the path that they are, if the decisions that are being made continue to be made in the way that they're being, he might be the nominee. And I think it's time to sort of turn the page, have a different conversation about prosperity for our country, a conversation about, you know, where are the dynamic competitive threats, where are they going to come from, how do we position ourselves as a country to confront those, and stop, you know, sort of buying into what our enemies are doing, which is trying to divide us.
But do you think if he did store national security secrets in a bathroom at Mar-a-Lago that he should be held accountable?
I think anybody who has misplaces classified documents should be held accountable at some level, but we've seen reports of, you know, the former vice president. We've seen reports of the former vice president, the president who was the former vice president at the time. And I think what frustrates people is they don't see the same aggressive prosecution when there are accusations against people from different parties. I'd rather not be having this conversation. I'd rather not be here as mayor trying to protect, you know, my city and our buildings. You know, this is not a healthy conversation for our country, and it's not one that I think is going to lead to success for our country. That's really what I'm focused on.
Yeah, but there are major differences, and there is a special counsel also investigating President Biden's handling of classified documents.